It's so humid here still.
Hey there, Jordan Chariton, joined by Tina-Desiree Berg for a happy hour.
Where's your
Republican
brew?
debate. This is my bougie drink I got in the craft brewery line.
Oh, of course you have a bougie drink. I have a French. Is this French? No, it's Belgium, actually. Is it Belgium? I don't even know.
No, Stella's Italian, I believe. Toasted coconut with oatmeal and milk sugar. So this is more like a stout.
Well, no, it's neither. Brewed in the United States of America under strict supervision of the brewmasters from Belgium.
Wow, very nice.
Who knew?
Right now, I have one. As we play more clips, I might have to get more beverages, possibly switch to whiskey. I didn't drink during the debate, which probably would have been better because, man, that was something. That was really something. Before we get into smash the like button, share that live stream. Before we get into the best, worst, and ugly, what was your 360 degree view?
The sober version of what I think. It's really become apparent to me that there is a very real battle happening in the GOP right now, and it's between the cultural warriors who are ever so more right of Trump. I think Trump was obviously a turning milestone for that sort of thing, but the folks that are coming after him are much more radicalized. Let's be honest. We saw some crazy stuff last night. And then you still have the traditional sort of pro-business neoconservative group that's represented by Christie, Nikki Haley, and they were fighting amongst each other over the obvious things. I would say the big arguments are going to be over economics, right? So the more to the right guys actually do understand the problems, and they see inherently the problems with income inequality, with the plutocracy that's running the country. And in many ways, they have the same beefs that a lot of the people on the left do. It's just that their responses to that are incredibly problematic because they're centered on, anti-Semitism, racism, lashing out at weaker, marginalized groups, whatnot. So that's really problematic, obviously. But then you have the traditionals like Christie, Nikki Haley. They never met a good war they didn't want to fight. They're still very much pro-corporation, pro-business. And then you also have like a bit of this ANCAP thinking going on with Vivek.
It's Vivek.
What? Vivek. He wants to, get rid of
it's like cake. Vivek, like cake, just to be accurate. Go ahead.
He wants to get rid of the Department of Education, totally obliterate that, get rid of all regulation. He hasn't met an energy company that he doesn't absolutely love. Fossil fuels, fracking, all of it, make it happen. It's good for us. It's good for the country. So kind of extreme, what I would call anarcho-capitalist kind of stuff. But that's also kind of problematic for many reasons. Anyway, that's my sort of overarching thing of what I saw last night. It was a bit of a clown show. And I think it is really important to point out that even though Trump didn't attend this and did his own thing on Twitter with Tucker Carlson, he is still polling heads and shoulder above anybody else in that field. And I don't think what happened last night is going to change that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to specific clips. My overarching thought, I thought it was funny. I don't know if this is one of the clips you picked, but if not, I'll just mention it. I thought it was interesting that Fox, who, by the way, was begging Trump for months before this debate, including going to his golf club to kiss his ring, to be in the debate. I thought it was funny that they began with like this ode to poverty and the working man, what is it? The man north of Richmond.
I 100% clip that. We are 100% going to talk about that because that was monumental in sort of setting the tone. And I think it really shows the divide. Like, you had a response, which we'll get into. We had a response from Christie, which means he doesn't even understand the problem. So two sides of a bad coin, because those that understand the problem have very bad solutions that are detrimental to a lot of folks, and then those that don't, that are like pro-corporation, not wanting to do anything about the income inequality, because of their business ties, they're refusing to acknowledge what is a very real problem in the country and what is also, in my opinion, undergirding the fascist increase.
Yeah. And I will say, and then we'll get to the first clip, I tweeted this earlier. And by the way, I don't know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but suddenly since Twitter became X or whatever it is,
Yeah, I'm not on there anymore.
I'm
I had
suddenly
to
like,
bail.
I'm suddenly like double shadow banned.
Really?
I suddenly am getting, like, if I'm lucky, 2 retweets, or is it reposts now? Because he changed. There's no
Dude,
longer tweets.
you just need to put a pitchfork into Twitter. It's dead.
Well, I'm trying to. I got a book agent, as I told our audience, so that's awesome. He's going to be pitching after Labor Day to publishers, and publishers want to know you have a following. Can you have a
I get it. I get it.
So it's I have a following on Twitter, but now I'm suddenly getting 2 retweets. Anyway, neither here nor there. So let's start. I don't even know which order we have, so we'll just play them
just start.
React. Please smash that like button. Please share this live stream. Tomorrow, just so you know, I might be going back to cover that nurses strike in New Jersey that is still raging. As a reminder, I went a week or 2 ago with John. 1,700 nurses at Robert Johnson Woods Hospital are on strike. Similar reasons to others, chronic understaffing, unsafe levels of understaffing. They're still going strong 3 weeks later. So I'm probably going to go cover the picket line tomorrow there. Also, we are now, I believe, 22 days away from a potential massive United Auto Workers strike, which I will definitely be going on the ground, probably to Detroit, if they go on strike. Based on the strike authorization votes that are now coming in from all the various local UAW locals, you're getting responses 96% authorization to go on strike, 97%, some places 100% authorization.
Wow.
I don't think it's if, I think it's when they're going on strike.
Right.
To be clear, I'd love to go out, but we've been spending dollars lately. Tina took a second trip to Cobb City. Lewis just got back from his 4th trip to East Palestine. Obviously, me going out in the field to cover various things locally and in Flint a couple months ago. I think I'm forgetting some stuff we've done. Please, if you want to fund me going to cover the United Auto Workers strike, which could be 150,000 workers, keep signing up as a member. I'll remind you throughout the show. Let's play the first clip from the clown show of last night.
There's a difference between bad behavior. And I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it, like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it as governor. And I am not going to bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said,
get your MSNBC contributor.
He said,
these are politicized indictments, and we have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution, regardless of the political pressure.
Hold on.
Listen. Hold on. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over, give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur. Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And you know, this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Where do we begin?
Well, first of all, I forgot to say this in my prelude before the first clip, but it's important that the Status Coup audience knows, because Fox did not mention this. They're kind of, all of these candidates, they're almost like trying to reach 2 different audiences. And in my view, the more important audience that they're trying to reach before voters is the first 3 rows, which are all Republican donors.
Right.
They put the donors in the front seats at these things, ranked by the highest dollar donors. So they're kind of trying to like split the atom a bit, split the baby, trying to get zingers that will reach the more MAGA, well, some of the candidates like Vivek, trying to stroke the MAGA base watching, but also trying to impress the donors so that maybe some donors will flip from the guy or girl next to you to you. So it's kind of, you got to balance that line, walk a fine line. You're trying to basically get money because that's how you stay viable in this sick cesspool of American politics. So that's part of who they were trying to cater to. And when you heard booing or cheering, a lot of that was coming from donors. And not that there was others too, but significantly, if you heard cheering for Christie, a lot of times that was donors, not necessarily people. With that said,
I agree. I mean, because he was basically coming down on what's happening with Trump. He was, most of them, there was a pause, and we'll play this clip too, but right at the start of the debate, that it was positive, was put out there, like, let's deal with the elephant in the room. Let's deal with the fact that Trump is about to be taken into custody in Georgia. He's facing very serious charges there, RICO state charges, that he's not going to get out of. And he's not here tonight, but we all have to deal with this as a party. So let's deal with it. And the question was posed, if Trump is in jail and he ends up being the Republican nominee, will you support that? Christie was not on board.
Neither was Asa Hutchinson. Asa Hutchinson. What's interesting to me, and there's plenty of clips to get into with Vivek, who is an empty vessel. I was getting kind of a mix of, Mayor Pete vibes, that whole like just say a lot of fucking words and embrace being, an outsider, even though he wasn't an outsider, and kind of R.I.P. Dearly departed Herman Cain, who was kind of like a show, 999 planned back in 2016. But what I was kind of surprised by, Vivek was trying to do the whole spiel, like, I'm not a politician and you're all bought and paid for, which they are. I was kind of surprised nobody went after him. The guy became a billionaire off of a pharmaceutical company. It's very in vogue, even among Republicans right now, to hate big pharma. Also, he's attacking everybody else for being bought and paid for and yada, yada. They are. But
so is he.
But his company was based in Bermuda, a tax haven.
Yeah.
So the guy is full of shit.
He is full of shit, but you know how he gets around that is this is where you're touching on some of that ANCAP stuff that I was referencing. He's an anarcho-capitalist. So those guys view them as the next level of extreme libertarian, right? They believe that there should be no business regulation in the United States of America. So their idea of being a narco is we're going to set up a seasteading corporation off of the coast out in the middle of the ocean, because then we get out of every single regulation that is in the country. Then we don't have to deal with any of it. So, putting his company in Bermuda, whatever else, this is completely, on plan for that. But also at the same time, this is a guy trying to make an appeal to the Trump supporters that are being most affected by the income inequality, right? So he's trying to reach out to these guys and is like, I get while you're hurting, but, you don't blame the corporations, don't blame the billionaires, blame the black folks, blame the Jewish folks, blame the communist Democrats, right? So this is some of that radicalized language that we see coming out of the far right.
Yeah. What I also found kind of interesting, because you could miss things quick because there's so much outlandish things said these days in the Republican Party that similarly outlandish stuff might just kind of come off mundane. But did anybody else notice that Christie, who's, I guess, like the most moderate of the bunch there, even though he's in my view,
he looked like the most moderate last night, which is kind of scary.
Kind of slipped in that racist comment about Obama. Yes. About the funny middle name and yada yada yada. I'm no fan of Obama, but obviously
I noticed it. That's why I included it in this little montage of what he said. Right. Like, he's basically saying you're also a brown dude with a funny name. I mean, it's racist. 100%.
And also, why didn't Christie? Because Christie, even though I think he's not an empty vessel, he's a big vessel. But why didn't he counterpunch Vivek and say, so Vivek, if you were governor of a state, would you would you welcome the visiting president who is visiting your hurricane-ravaged state by punching him in the face? Right. I mean, Vivek was saying, oh, you hugged him. Well, what did you want Christie to do? Right. New Jersey just got hit with a storm that usually the
was getting federal aid. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it was just, I thought Christie, I don't know why he's running. He knows he's not going to win, but I think he got kind of thrown off his game. And I think Vivek kind of maybe learned something from Trump. It doesn't necessarily matter as much what you're saying as long as you're just keep talking, interrupt them, keep talking, keep interrupting. I thought the Fox moderators were pretty terrible in terms of regulating.
100%. Although some of their facial expressions were pretty funny. At several points in the night, they both were like, even they were like, what now?
and I thought overall, and obviously I'm sure there's clips with DeSantis, I thought strategically it was a mistake for them to all attack Vivek. I get it from a human perspective because he's really fucking annoying and kind of nauseating and obnoxious. But I mean, I go back to the 2016 clown car. He will be a flash in the pan. He's not going to, he's in now. I think he's probably peaking too early. He will go down. But who you really need to take out in the not Trump lane is DeSantis. And I think DeSantis, probably his campaign is more DeSantis, in my opinion. You think? But I think DeSantis, based on the polls now, but I think DeSantis's campaign strategy was mostly do no harm. It doesn't matter if we have an amazing moment. Most important not to have a horrible moment, which he didn't. But
DeSantis didn't have any moments. Like, he was very bland milquetoast last night. I don't think that he won any brownie points by being that way, honestly. You had a very riled up crowd. Right.
But I did think it was a mistake because, I mean, I would say 60-70% of the attacks were focused on Vivek. Yeah, yes, I mean, he's technically behind DeSantis and ahead of a lot of these candidates, but I think that's mostly because he's stroking Trump. And, being outlandish in the things he says. I don't think it will remain that way. But overall, I think if Christie's best one-liner was "you sound like ChatGPT," it was cute, but it wasn't his excoriating Marco Rubio 7 years ago.
No, I agree. We did see some of that later, but I'll wait to talk about that.
All right, let's move on.
Shoot the next clip. Yeah.
If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would. Just hold on. So just to be clear, Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand?
No, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And I know you didn't.
Whoa. No. What's the look? Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you raised your hand supporting.
No, I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
Let me tell you something.
I'm sorry. 30 seconds, Governor Christie.
You make me laugh because you sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer right.
Hold on one second.
You sit here in an answer.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
Hold on, Governor Christie.
Hold on.
Well,
So listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about. So let's just get through this section.
All right. I got to say right off the top, Jordan, this is so fucking dangerous. And I am going to use the F word there. The fact of the matter is what Christie is saying right now is true. This isn't about politicizing anything. This is not about using the police to destroy your political opponents. It's about somebody that literally tried to overturn election results. It's about somebody that used a scheme with other people to try to put in fake electors to affect the Electoral College and erase the votes of the people of this country. That should disturb everybody. I don't give a shit what side of the aisle you're on. That is dangerous. And the fact that these guys are trying to minimalize that in the way he just did, and the fact you have an entire audience just ripping into booing for 5 minutes over Christie saying, no, we can't be okay with this. We shouldn't be normalizing this, is absolutely frightful. That just shows you how completely out of control this has become.
So there's several things. Colin, I'm sending you something that I forgot to send you. So if you get it early enough, I'm going to reference it. First of all, Tina, we are very rude because we started a happy hour without inviting people to be happy with us. So for those watching, make sure to, lift up a beer, tea, kombucha, medicinal plants, whatever is your flavor. This is a happy stream. By the way, smash that like button. Super chats are very welcome. Just from these clips, I might have to start chugging soon because this is really starting to get to my brain.
Well, it's depressing.
There's a few
man.
things. There's a few things. And this is why I don't know if just these campaign aides did not prep these people appropriately. But Vivek Ramaswamy, who's, let's just call it what it is, sucking Trump off for dear life. He once called, Colin, if you could show it, he blasted Trump as a loser who tried to overturn the election.
Right.
Before restyling himself as Trump's biggest toady. So he said, this is from Mediaite, in the wake of the charges, Ramaswamy is issued a forceful condemnation of the prosecution. He argued Trump is not to blame for January 6th, blah, 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 blah. While Ramaswamy has fashioned himself as the biggest Trump booster in the Republican primary, an awkward position given Trump himself is running, his defense of the former president has clashed with his previous condemnations. For instance, in tweets following January 6th, Ramaswamy wrote, "What Trump did last week was wrong, downright abhorrent, plain and simple. I've said it before." In his book, he hammered Trump for his refusal to concede the election, calling him a loser and detailing how his efforts to overturn the election failed. So why aren't any people calling this obvious grifter, Johnny-come-lately, extreme makeover out?
I'd like to know.
Are they not prepped with this information? Secondly,
I think they're probably not prepped with this information. Yeah.
Secondly, I think DeSantis, it will be in ads. They might have ads as soon as this week. And as a reminder, if you don't know, Trump is currently flying to turn himself in Georgia. He will have a mugshot this time. So take that for what it is. Remember, DeSantis looked around first to see who was going to raise their hand. Yeah. The man is such a politician and has no moral courage other than when he's trying to target LGBT and trans people, immoral. That's going to be in ads that he can't even make up his mind. He's just seeing where the wind blows, how many people are raising their hand that we think Trump, whatever. What was it? They think Trump should have conceded.
No. If he is, the question was this: if he is the nominee, are you going to support him if he's in jail? Literally, nobody on that stage should have said yes. Nobody. Are you kidding me?
Well,
how is this even a question?
In fairness, Asa Hutchinson did not raise his hand, and Christie, I don't know if he raised his hand.
He gets kudos for that, honestly, because that's the only appropriate response.
But what's amazing to me, obviously, DeSantis is just a withering vein. He's just looking to see if he's got enough cover.
Around. And so he was kind of like, I'm not going to, but then he's all, crap, I'm the only one that I guess I have to. Yeah, I mean, what is that?
So that will be an ad. Mark my words. Trump attacking him for going as the wind goes. The other thing is, yes, I'm aware you only have a minute to answer, but if Christie, there is a way of turning some of Trump's people against him. It's not easy, but there are some Trumpies on the fence. But if you're going to go after him for the conduct, you have to realize a lot of them probably aren't even aware of most of the conduct because they're only watching Fox News and listening to Steve Bannon. So you got to You're talking about how the conduct is horrible, but he's not explaining what was that conduct. If it were me,
why it's a problem.
I would have focused on the classified documents case because that's the one that's clear and dry. When they're talking about politicization of government, no, literally the Department of Justice and FBI bent over backwards like they would have never.
To give him every opportunity to turn those docs in. I agree. He did this to himself. You're not wrong on that. So and this idea,
if anything, they, in my view, they afforded him all the luxuries that no one else would have got. Anyone else would have been in prison a year before.
I agree.
And would have not been on bail waiting for, because he had spy documents, he had nuclear programs. And I'm not one to just breathlessly, lazily believe whatever the government says, but I mean, there are indictments, there's evidence they're providing. So I think Christie, as a prosecutor, made a mistake because he didn't meticulously make his case what the conduct was. The other thing is, and welcome new Status Coup member, Emily, signing up. Have a drink with us, Emily. Awesome, awesome. Thank you for signing up. Everybody be like Emily and sign up. Another thing is you got Christie not making the case. You also had Vivek. If you're saying that Trump was the greatest president of the 21st century, why are you running? Why did nobody ask him?
I thought that was strange too.
If he's amazing, why are you here? Why are you running?
So Jordan, part of me thinks that they all know that they're not going to compete with him and they're just looking for places in his cabinet. They're like, using this as a job audition, so to speak. I mean, I think that Vivek realizes that he's not going to win the nomination, but he doesn't want to be on Trump's bad side if Trump becomes president. I think it's a power play.
I think DeSantis is really running for president. I think Nikki Haley is really running for president. The rest,
she went after him for this. We'll play that clip later.
I just, between DeSantis looking around, having no courage of his convictions, Christie is kind of being vague about what the conduct is. Believe it or not, I mean, I'll use my father as an example. I just had a conversation with him today. A lot of Republican and Trump supporters literally do not know what is in these indictments. They do not know the play-by-play of what Trump did. They don't know, for example.
That's by choice then. Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
No, it's not. They're literally consuming either Fox News or
by choice.
Steve Bannon's podcast.
Maybe they shouldn't just consume that kind of stuff. Maybe they should go out and get more information.
Of course. But my point is they are getting very limited information on what's in it. So this is your chance to maybe change some minds. So to me, that was a very illuminating case. The whole politicization of government, yada, yada, yada. Yes, the government has been politicized. The DOJ has, but mostly against Black, brown, and indigenous people, not Donald Trump.
Not Donald. It's ridiculous. But I mean, but they say that because that is what they want. They think the FBI, the police exist. Like I've said this before, they don't want, when they ask for reform and they want to get rid of the FBI, they don't want the same things the left wants. The left wants to get rid of biases in policing, right? The left is like basically saying law should be applied universally to everybody the same way. That has not been the case historically. It's not the way now. There are racist cops doing shitty things and they should be punished for that. Whereas those on the right are basically saying, no, the police exist to do our will. We want them to put into place anything that we think is appropriate. So they are the ones that literally want to use cops to destroy their political enemies, which is why they're projecting right now. That's how they see it, right? It's like, let's replace the FBI with Pinochet's army. That's what we want. Push them out of helicopters. That's fine. And they're not American. They're not patriots. They deserve to die. I mean, this is some of the rhetoric you hear.
Before the next clip, Colin, can we just play that humorous 4 seconds of DeSantis kind of like robot smile? That would kind of be nice.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
It looks like, I don't know if like they injected Botox in his cheeks or something. That is the most forced smile. Like, I am human. Oh God.
Yeah, bro, lay off the Botox. Yikes.
His poor children. All right, next clip.
As President of the United States, your first obligation is to defend our country and its people. And that means You're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people who are being killed because, well, we're not handling both. And so I am going to declare it a national emergency. I'm not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are bringing fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to use force, and we're going to leave them stone cold dead. Here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
But Governor DeSantis, do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agencies.
Right, but
I will do that.
That's not the question.
I know, but here's the thing.
This
election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025, when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our country. I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission above all else. You can't get distracted. So Republicans, we've got to look forward, and we've got to make sure that we're bringing the message that can win in November 2021.
Did not answer the question. Did not answer the question.
Vice President Pence, what do you think, Vice President?
Is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There's no more important duty. So answer the question.
I've answered this before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing: is this what we're going to be focusing on?
I'm relieved.
Going forward, the rehashing of this. I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis,
Democrats would love that, and they will win if we let them get away with it. I'm not letting Biden hang out in the basement this time. We're going to run him ragged around this country, and we're going to hold him accountable.
So, as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline? You have the cartels controlling a lot of part of your southern border. We have to reestablish the rule of law, and we have to defend our people. The President of the United States has got to use all available powers as Commander-in-Chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick. I've met angel moms throughout this country. I met a lady in Texas named Tracy, and her son took one Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, immediately died. That is happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in. So as president, would I use force? Would I treat them as foreign terrorist organizations? You're darn right I would.
You know, Vice President Pence.
Notice the rhetoric that he's using when he talks about migrants, right? So the vast majority of migrants aren't bringing fentanyl into the country at all. They're fleeing really atrocious situations in other countries, but he's going to act like, they're all drug dealers. We should use lethal force at the border on them. No mention of the Sackler family. Why do we even have a fentanyl problem in this country? It's not because of Mexico. It's because we decided to let the Sackler family produce this stuff, say it wasn't addictive, push it all over the place, and say it was perfectly fine. Yeah.
Why do we have cartels that just reproduce over and over again? Maybe because the United States has helped prop them up through the endless drug war.
That too. Yeah. So again, like nobody wants to deal with the actual root cause of this problem. We're just going to use immigrants in general as a scapegoat to beat up, for our political points. And it's really messed up.
Yeah. It's very clear to me that DeSantis has an army of consultants around him that are spoon feeding him. Hey, you got to get these 5 phrases, preferably all in one sentence. It came out before, like, his super PAC posted like his strategy, which was basically to like hug Trump, attack Vivek, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, literally in like 45 seconds, he put in, what did he say? Lockdown, deep state, Anthony, you're fired, weaponization, Biden in the basement. These are all, I mean, I've been doing this long enough. These are all kind of consultant fed. Some of them are poll tested to see which lines are popular, which ones don't land. And he is just kind of mixing them in a bowl and churning it. I think what was interesting, first of all, I don't particularly think, I think strategically, DeSantis has made an error really going like the anti-vax route and the anti-lockdown route. Because on the merits, I know anti-vaxxers and COVID truthers don't want to hear this. He was pro-lockdown. He was pro-vaccine.
Exactly.
Not for a minute, for most of 2020. Florida was locked down. He was promoting the vaccine. If you want devil's advocate to say, well, Jordan, he realized that Fauci lied and then he turned. Okay. I think he saw that there's an opening here because the anti-vax movement, thanks to Robert Kennedy Jr. and others, was exploding. But he wasn't some like from the start, COVID. Right. He wasn't what you wanted him to be from the start. Right. And I just don't think, honestly, I mean, most Americans by the polls were for COVID precautions. We're for wearing masks. We're for the vaccines. Still are, maybe to a lesser degree, but the anti-vax movement and the COVID truther movement, I think it seems much bigger on the internet than it actually is.
I agree.
In reality,
I agree with you.
I think he's very clearly. This is just my gut. I really think a big calculus of DeSantis' campaign is that Trump is ultimately going to drop out. And I think his people are saying, just double down and try and reach Trump supporters. That's why he's going hard on the border. Because remember, in 2016, that was Trump's defining policy. The wall, immigrants are rapists and all this. So I just think he's trying to push the buttons of MAGA supporters, not alienate them by attacking Trump with the hopes that 4 indictments, maybe more, who knows, Trump might bow out and say it was the deep state that took us down because he doesn't want prison time. So he didn't have any like memorable lines, but he also, I think, I think he's pretty much going to stay where he is, not go up, not go down. But he's very clearly, I just think he's kind of, I'd say he's Trump, just an awkward version of Trump.
I agree. I would say 2 other things were important here. The first being that you actually heard Pence say to him and others, did I not do the right thing on January 6th? So he just was out there with it. Did I not do the right thing? Obviously, yes, you did your job. You did the bare minimum. You did the right thing. But that sort of forced a response because he was so direct with it. Yes. And the response to that was, yes, you did do the right thing. So I thought that was interesting. The second thing, DeSantis bringing up, again, his military career. And I encourage people that have not watched the interview I did with Mike Preisner on this yet, please do it. He was part of illegal torture programs, both at Guantanamo Bay and Fallujah. This is not hearsay. This is actually documented stuff. Mike had actually interviewed a couple of the detainees there that had been tortured with his as a JAG attorney overview. So, DeSantis was there as a JAG attorney. He was overseeing this as the legal aspect of that. And he knew full well what was happening and was engaging in it. So I think that's very dangerous. Now, do I think the people that are going to vote for DeSantis find that troubling? No, they're probably fine with it. I think the neocons are obviously clearly fine with it. But I think most average Americans, should take a look at that and have second thoughts.
Yeah. I was also surprised a little bit. DeSantis, if you noticed, I actually didn't hear it from anyone unless I missed it. There was a little less culture war-y. I did not hear anything about woke. I did hear him mention, critical race theory and, these things, gender identity in schools, but not as much as I thought he would be.
He was more safe. He was riding sort of that middle ground between the neoconservatives on the stage and the more extremist positions. Yeah. So you're right. I noticed that too. That's why I was saying it was kind of a milquetoast thing for DeSantis. He didn't move the needle in any direction, in my opinion. To
me, doing that is better to appease to independents who might lean right wing but are turned off by MAGA. So I was kind of surprised. I don't like most of what he said, but it wasn't as
no, it might have been calculated. Woke. I think you're right.
It wasn't as woke and online as typically. All right. The next brain buster.
All right. The one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls. I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President.
Nikki
She's
Haley.
Speaking to the donors there, right?
Yeah. The issue is, she had a couple good one-liners. I thought her attacks on Vivek over Ukraine, which I'm sure is one of our clips.
Yeah, that's coming up. Definitely
but I think she's kind of confusing 2023 with Bob Dole's Republican Party. That's why I put his name in the headline. The MAGA base doesn't give a shit about debt. I don't give a shit about the debt because it's all made up anyway. Learn modern monetary theory, as Steve Grumbine and I have talked about. We print money out of our ass. You think taxpayer money paid for Iraq, Afghanistan, the 1,000 bases we have around the world, Ukraine, etc. So she's making an argument that I think, never Trumpers might care about. Nicole Wallace on MSNBC might care about. The donors, the
neoconservatives. That's it. Yeah.
But Trump's base, a lot of them were Obama voters that switched to Trump. A lot of them were Reagan Democrats that are blue collar workers. They're not worried about America's debt. And what was funny to me, well, I'll wait till we have the clip, but it was very much kind of like going back to that Tea Party mid 2010s Republicanism of got to cut. Whereas Trump was like, fuck it, which technically I agree with in terms of fuck it. Let's spend government money. But Trump's idea of spending government money was just massive tax cuts for the donors in the front rows, not stimulus for us. But I think Haley is just
that's her point of bringing up the entitlements, right? She's saying what we did put all of these people on Medicaid, right? That's what she's talking about there.
Right. So I think in a galaxy far, far away, if Trump never happened, Nikki Haley could have had a real future in the Republican Party, maybe president.
Neoconservatism is gone. As far as economics are speaking, I think you're right.
If Trump is the if he's the nominee, I don't think he's going the Pence kind of moderate route. Even though Pence is an extremist too, I think he would go full throttle. A Carrie Lake, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Christie, the lunatic South Dakota governor. I think he just wants to galvanize that base, and he sees Biden much weaker, which we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, Nikki Haley had some good moments. I don't think she's anything more than.
I don't think she scored any points with what she was talking about here, but I thought it was important to include because of what you're talking about right now, right? This is the old school Republican argument that was used for decades as to why we couldn't have entitlements. Cut taxes for the rich, then we don't have money to spend on the entitlements, and these guys get even more tax cuts. Like, it's this vicious cycle that they were very much into, but that ship sailed because people now realize that it's a bullshit argument. The debt doesn't actually fucking affect them at all. And they don't care about the 3 trillion or whatever, 8 trillion, I guess she said, that Donald Trump added to the debt. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. You're correct on that. And this is that thing that I'm talking about where sometimes, these individuals that are Trump supporters, especially the ones that had either voted for Obama and switched sides or had supported Bernie Sanders, the reason is because of these economic issues, right? They understand that there's massive income inequality. They want something done about it. And in their minds, it hasn't quite clicked that Trump's part of the problem. Right? He's part of the plutonymy. He's not fixing this shit anytime soon. He isn't going to put Medicare for all out there. He isn't going to protect entitlements as far as what they call entitlements. I don't think they're entitlements, but that's what they use. Social Security and whatnot. That's not going to, none of that. He's just been lying to you about this stuff, and it should be clear to you by now. But I think what the remnants of that happening is that most Americans no longer see the debt as this giant, big, scary boogeyman that the Republicans have been able to use as a cudgel all these years. That ship sailed.
And you know who should have been on that debate stage with their debt fetish? Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Who can never stop talking. We cut 1.7 trillion out of the deficit. It's nauseating.
No, it isn't. And the younger generations in particular that are dealing with a lot of debt as far as, college loans and things of this nature, unable to buy a house because they're just too expensive. They're rolling their eyes at this shit, and rightfully they should. They're like, when are you going to speak to our issues? We were handed a really raw deal. And most of the time, I think people are aware that the boomers, and also, I'm Gen X, we had it much easier. I was able to go to college without taking a student loan because it was that cheap. I was able to pay my rent working part-time. It was a different world back then. And it's completely unrealistic to not acknowledge that and to try to say, this is why Bernie Sanders was popular, right? Because he understood this.
Right.
And he knew.
By the way, well, also Nikki Haley, maybe she got it twisted because the problem with the COVID bill was not that it put more people on Medicaid. It was a giant fucking blowjob to corporate America.
Exactly.
And they got trillions of dollars, including the airlines.
But that's the neocon way, right? That's what I'm talking about. Nobody buys that bullshit anymore on either the right or the left. If you're part of the vast majority of the working class, you're not buying it. You're just not. Yep. So I think, but I did want to include that because when she said all this stuff, I'm like, I thought the same thing you did. Bob, what year is this?
Yep. Absolutely.
Who's she talking to? Yeah.
And reminder, smash that like button. Keep the super chats coming. We're going to read them at the end, so we're not ignoring you. Let's get to the next clip.
Reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland. All right. That will be my top priority in foreign policy.
We gave you
protect
more than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the revive. So I do want to get to some other people because everybody, we respect everybody's time here. So Governor Haley, you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute. Why?
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. Right. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense. Putin has said once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
First of all,
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. DeSantis,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
I'm not on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon. And
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week, Nikki.
You want to go and defund Israel? You want to
okay, let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to address each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician. There you have it.
Under your watch,
so
you will make America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The foreign policy experience that you all have shows in the pointless wars we've gotten into. I have to address that. So our relationship with Israel will never be stronger than by the end of my first term. But it's not a client relationship. It is a friendship. And you know what?
Bro, it's not a client relationship. It's a friendship. I don't know if you could hear what he was saying in the background.
I got a migraine.
You got migraine from
somebody bring me the whiskey.
Neoconservative, more warmongering at its finest right here. Like unbelievable amounts of warmongering coming from Nikki Haley, which I would expect nothing less. I mean, she's part of, the old George W. Bush, I haven't met a war I didn't love. But notice, she literally said, we're trying to prevent wars, which I was like, are you now? Are you? Because, there are other ways to prevent wars than doing what we're doing. That's ludicrous.
Well, what was amazing, and it's in so many moments, not just this clip. And this is why I've always kind of frowned on leftists saying, these idiots are out lefting, progressives on Ukraine.
They're not.
They're just calling for war with China instead of Russia.
Or at the border with Mexico. I mean, they all want to arm up everybody on the border. And I can't stand it when people say they're anti-war. They're not.
Most of these fuckers, including Vivek, without explicitly saying war with China, please, we're basically saying we need to stop getting involved with Russia and Ukraine and pivot.
So we can go war elsewhere
and confront China. So how is that that's okay. So you're going to be excited that we're going to get out of Ukraine and then move on to China? They all love war because the donors in front that they're trying to get their money love war because they're all invested in the defense contractors. Wall Street's heavily invested. So I thought Nikki got the better of him in terms of the donors, the traditional Republican base.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Not the MAGA base who does. No. I mean, I think Trump, part of his popularity in 2016, besides the WWF show of it, was there is an isolationist fervor in the Republican Party that overlaps with a lot of progressives. But the thing with Ukraine is none of these people on either side have a real tangible or sensible policy. On one end, you have Vivek say, I'm not giving another dime for Ukraine. Let's focus on China. By the way, DeSantis has been doing the same thing. China or the border. And Trump, by the way, when he was president, was calling for basically bombing Mexico. That came out.
Yeah, no.
So
DeSantis wants to invade. I mean, he literally said, let's invade Mexico and shut down the cartels. I'm like, what does that sound like to you? Because it sounds like a fucking war to me.
Yeah. So I think, but on the other end, Haley, it's this phantom idea that, yes, Putin is a thug. He's a murderer. That's
Right.
to be clear.
That's true.
But,
that is true.
But it's this idea that we need to stop Putin in Ukraine, or else he's going to Poland and then he's coming to us. And it's just this,
which is nonsense.
It's this McCarthyism, this and that. I mean, I have been clear. I think it's more nuanced than certain people on YouTube have made it out to be. Ukraine did not invade itself. However, it's clear at this point, I think the United States is doing everything it can to prolong the war, not end the war. But all these people are warmongers. Just each one has their own specific country they want to. Right.
Exactly.
I mean, for some of them, it's Iran. For some of them, it's China. But, let me tell you something. MSNBC loved Nikki Haley's answer. They thought she was the belle of the ball. CNN. It's always interesting, like, who these pundits and out of touch people think won the debate versus like who actually goes up in the polls. Because I don't think Nikki Haley is going to go up that much. Vivek might go up a little bit. DeSantis, I think, will stay flat. Other than that, I don't think a lot has changed. So, but Nikki
Haley,
all that. Big warmonger. So go on.
Huge. No, that's all. You said everything else that I would have said. Let's go to the next clip.
In part to blame is the Democrats been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels. I mean, it's extraordinary to think about the violence that's claiming innocent lives literally every week in every major city in this country. And yet Democrats and liberal prosecutors in major metropolitan areas continue to work out their fanciful agendas, to do bail reform and go easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that'll marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. When I'm president of the United States, we're actually going to cut taxes further. We're going to extend those tax cuts, and we're going to close the Federal Department of Education, block grant all that funding back to the states. With a growing economy and educational choice and law enforcement, we will bring our cities back. Look, we secured the southern border of the United States of America and reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. When Joe Biden took over, he threw open the southern border of the United States, and the wave of humanity, the wave of fentanyl that's been eloquently described here is a wave of human tragedy across this country. But Martha, you began this evening talking about who is best prepared to be the next president of the United States. And I have to tell you, with all humility, I was there when we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on Capitol Hill around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And Asa, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and to our southern border as never before. And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United States of America.
Okay, thank you.
If they were this aggressive on mass shootings, we'd be
now. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, no kidding. So wait, so basically what he's saying is let's cut taxes more, as if we need to cut taxes for rich people more. Are you kidding me? And then let's give that to the police.
Yeah. They already, by the way, they already gave a lot of the COVID money to police and prisons. So let's give.
And, bail reform. He has a problem with bail reform. This is very disturbing. Bail reform is necessary and needed if you want justice. Right now, we are politicizing poverty in the country by not having bail reform. If you cannot afford to get a bail bond, you sit in jail, even though you haven't been convicted of a crime. Rich people don't have this problem. You are literally criminalizing poverty. How is that okay, Pence? I need an answer on that.
And by the way, I mean, if I was on stage, if a progressive got to debate any of these idiots, you know, we had to get rid of the progressive radical Chesa Boudin in San Francisco, that radical district attorney. Well, guess what? Crime has gone up even more.
It's gone after he's left. You're right.
In San Francisco,
did a long interview with Chesa.
After they got rid of the progressive prosecutor, by the way, most of the money that went into that recall campaign was from what the hell's the guy? David Sachs, the Elon Musk BFF. Right. So it's kind of bullshit that, you know, the tougher on crime reduces crime. No, the problem is you have a huge surge in petty crime, not necessarily violent crime, because you have a fucking economic Hunger Games out there that was worsened by a pandemic. By the way, I know we're supposed to pretend COVID is over, but it's surging in the Northeast.
Not. It's surging here in California. In fact, some places are using mask mandates again. No, you're not wrong on any of that. And San Francisco in particular is a very, if you want to take a good look at income inequality in the country, San Francisco is a perfect example. It's worse there than New York City is. I mean, rents there are insane, like really fucking insane. And I mean, you have examples of people that even work for like tech companies that are making, you know, $140,000 a year. They can't afford rent. They sleep in their cars in parking lots where they work, like at Google. Like there's stories about this from the local media. No, it's insane. It's fucking insane. By the way,
did you notice Mike Pence, again, the moderate, you notice he said, especially in our cities,
yeah.
Wink, wink. Didn't say inner cities, but I think we know.
Right.
So it's kind of like Christie swiveled in the whole Obama, the funny middle name.
Yeah.
Pence, especially in our cities. Listen, that's where most people, that's where the majority of the people live. So you're going to have more crime. But yeah, no, there's no like economic analysis of why there's so much crime.
Exactly. No interest in addressing why this is happening whatsoever. And and to be fair, this is true with both parties. We know this, you know.
Yes. And by the way, I should mention, Colin, if you have the tweet, I put it in the live doc. During this debate, Biden's campaign did not commit to Biden debating in the general election. The Republican nominee, which I don't know. I find that a little problematic.
That's a mistake. I think that's hugely problematic.
Putting aside the implications for democracy, because you should debate. Obviously, Trump doesn't care about democracy, but he should have debated. If Biden is refusing to debate, they'll if he refuses,
they're going to say he's incapable of it. He's old. He's senile. Yeah, this is a mistake.
They'll frame it as this is an extremist MAGA and it's beneath the dignity, yada yada. But to be clear, there's a reason he hasn't really done campaign events yet. Most incumbent presidents, not full throttle campaign, that would start after Labor Day, but something. He's not doing campaign events. It looks like he fell asleep when he was recently in Maui at an event. And if he's not debating,
the Democratic Party should be running a primary, in my opinion.
It's because they clearly don't think that he can make it through 3 debates without a
So that should tell them all they need to know. Maybe they should be running a primary. Can I just say that? Maybe they should really rethink that.
Colin, could you put the tweet up if you have it? They also said a reporter asked, will he debate Marianne Williamson or Robert F. Kennedy? There you have it. President Biden is the Democratic nominee. Cedric Richmond, his top advisor, said. So we just wave a wand and pretend we're not, by our system, able to have primaries. Marianne Williamson respond, kind of shocking in a democratic society. You could vote for whoever you want, but we're going to tell you who your choices are. It doesn't even matter. I don't like RFK. Marianne Williamson, I think, is better, but she's
definitely better than RFK's, and it's just don't even get me started on that dude.
But I think in addition to the antipathy for Biden, the lack of enthusiasm, I do think there's going to be people that just say, no, the Democrats rigged it again. We're just not going to vote, or we're going to vote for Cornel West.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake for the Democrats to do this. Next clip.
Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long before he rolls across and back out into Russia.
I want to do President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990.
Did I say
the real
USSR?
threat? You talked about the communists. And the real communists that we have to address right now
Do you not have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are?
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
Now,
Pence.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Mr. Ramaswamy, 30 seconds.
Respond. The real threat we face today is communist China, and we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it, and I am the only non-neocon on this stage who will keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear. Mr. Vice President,
is to give Russia everything they've got.
Mr. Vice President,
Give them a promise that Ukraine will never be in NATO, and then somehow
Mr. Vice President.
China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength.
Mr. Vice
and America
President.
needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to reestablish some ground rules
When
here,
we
folks.
hear this bell,
Yes.
that means your time's done.
We're done.
So, Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot end it. You cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority in foreign
I
policy.
think we gave you
protect
more
this
than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the rebut. So I do want to.
All right. So right off the top, he just was making this case about we shouldn't be sending our troops abroad. We need them here to protect the homeland, meaning like let's start a war with Mexico at the border. But earlier he'd been saying, no, let's start a war with China. Like this guy's all over the map. He has his two enemies, the people in Mexico that he thinks are all drug cartel members and China. I did want to point out something that I thought was super interesting. Pence says to him, you don't get the problem. You're not seeing the problem. It's not that communist Russia is over. I know that. It's that Putin is saying he wants to reestablish the USSR. How do you not know this? So I thought that was an interesting response to what Vivek was saying. Basically, Vivek is saying, Russia's dead. You're raising up this, communist boogeyman that's not there. There's communism elsewhere in the world. Look at China. Also, as a sidebar, China is a capitalist economy. Let's just put that aside for now. But it's not the command economy that he's making it out to be. And
by the way, Russia is not a communist country. It's a
neither are.
It's kleptocracy.
Exactly.
And the United States, after the fall of the USSR, injected neoliberal capitalism.
100%. We sent them over there and taught them how to be good oligarchs. David Summers, people from Harvard, you're 100% correct on that. I just thought it was an interesting response from Pence. It was not what I expected him to say. And I think he got a point for that from some of the old school donors in the crowd.
Yeah. And by the way, I made an error because I should have went further back. Bob Dole was not the right name to put in the headline. I should have went back to 1984, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Because Mike Pence is kind of living in the 80s with what did he say? We got the arsenal of democracy. Fight the communists over there, so we don't have to fight them here. Dude,
like none of them are communists at this point, so it's just
this guy is maybe he's looking for like voters who watched The Americans, which was a great show with Kerry Russell. They were like Russian spies, but the MAGA base, they don't like socialists and communists, but like
they don't. But what they call everybody they don't like. They think the Democrats are communists. They think
Joe Biden is a communist, which is a joke.
Antifa's communists,
Right. So I think a lot of these Republicans on stage, it was almost like for them probably a breath of fresh air that Trump wasn't there because they get to actually like try to reset things back to the good old days of the Red Scare and debt and yada, yada, yada. But I'm hearing a lot from Vivek and some others. Let's just send the 150, 200 billion that we sent to Ukraine to the southern border.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really think that's a good
read. It over and over again. Let's
I don't think that's a good diversion of resources. Yeah, no.
It's a terrible one. It's awful.
But I think Pence, to tell you the truth, I mean, I don't know if we have the clip. I assume we do, but I think he's really banking on winning Iowa and hoping to catch lightning in a bottle after that, because Iowa has a pretty big evangelical demographic.
Wait, you're talking about Pence now, right?
Yeah, on the abortion issue.
I mean, Pence is a Christian nationalist. We're going to get to that. I have some clips on that.
I learned when I reported in Indiana on something different a couple of years ago that Trump would make women who had miscarriages bury the remnant.
That's what now?
Look it up. Trump would make women who had miscarriages. I'm sorry, Pence, when he was governor of Indiana, would make women bury the remnants of their.
That's fucking awful. What is wrong with this guy?
You know, what seems moderate, if you peel back like the Trump era,
he's not moderate. He's definitely not moderate.
A bunch of fucking lunatics. Yeah. So, all right, let's keep going. I'm going to need to move to whiskey next.
On this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor,
Mr. Vice President,
and when I was vice president.
But I mean,
hold on. You were named earlier. I'm going to give Vivek first.
We'll get to both of them.
This isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it.
Well, let me explain it to you. Vivek.
No, I didn't raise a hand. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight.
Bro, there's no revolution. Stop. We're not at war.
God, that hurt. That really hurt. That really hurt.
All right. I don't know where to begin with this one.
I mean, I got to tell you, all joking aside, and I don't honestly, of course, I mean, objectively, Biden's better on climate, but better is not enough. Biden is a threat too in terms of the climate
I 100% agree with you. This guy
the lesser of two evils is not an option anymore when it comes to the climate apocalypse.
I agree.
However, you know, David Sirota, his film "Don't Look Up." This is "Don't Look Up."
This is "Don't Look Up."
You have over 1,000 people missing in Maui.
Right.
You were just in California.
I just had a hurricane here.
Yeah,
followed by a tornado warning. Like
right, once in a century storms in southern California with an earthquake. Obviously, severe storms through the Midwest we've had in the last year or two. That I wouldn't even call it a heat wave. I think that a heat wave makes it seem temporary. You had 4 days in a row just 3 weeks ago of the hottest temperatures on record since record keeping
over
began.
120 in some places. This is not livable. Like
Arizona, I think, was a record in terms of how 30 plus days over 110 degrees. Thank you, Ron Placone in the back. Fires in Canada. I mean, this is dangerous. If any one of these people, because with Biden, it is making it worse by inaction.
Right.
This is making it well. No, Biden is acting, Willow Project, other things, so he's making it worse. This is take a flamethrower to let's just light this motherfucker on fire. And it's scary because
it's fucking scary. It's absolutely scary.
The climate refugee crisis. It's going to be a real debilitating thing.
You haven't seen refugee migrants yet. What happens next is going to be worse. Also, I want to point out, like, all that booing that was going on when he was saying that wasn't because he said climate change was a hoax. Let's be clear. It was because he said he was the only person up there that wasn't bought and paid for. So that was like booing that had already started with that, and he was talking over it. I think some people, when they heard that clip, thought, wait, are people actually booing him saying climate change is a hoax? No, they're not. They're booing him. But
who do you think was booing? I think it was the donors in the first 3 rows.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's a billionaire. I'm sure he's purchased politicians.
Oh, 100%.
It's all
they're
phony.
all full of shit. It's all bullshit. Yeah. They're all bought and paid for.
Tina, I'm getting the sign that I have to go take care of my baby, so I got time for one more clip.
Okay.
Let's go. Yeah.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford the house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond. It is by a singer from Farmville, Virginia, named Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C. is about 100 miles north of Richmond.
These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end. Cause the rich men north of Richmond.
So, Governor DeSantis, why is this song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot succeed when the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars. Those rich men north of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country. I showed it could be done in the state of Florida. I pledge to you as your president, we will get the job done, and I will not let you down.
Governor DeSantis, thank you. Governor Christie, do you agree with Governor DeSantis just said there? And why would you be better on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here, that we would agree predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference. The difference is that we're going to have to work and make sure that we sell these ideas. And be able to put ourselves in a position where we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate, in the 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making, brought them around to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is this, Brett. We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey.
First of all, to be clear, I've been very, very busy. I told folks I got a book agent. I'm writing the Flint cover-up book. I got 13 chapters done, almost done with chapter 14. So I haven't really been focused day to day on as much as I normally am. So I know there was like a controversy with this guy. Is he astroturfed? Is he legit? I don't know. The very nice sounding voice.
I don't think it matters. I think the message is what people were responding to. And that includes both sides of the aisle that are suffering from income inequality. And I would point out right now, nobody fucking answered the question. Christie did it. Definitely.
Well, I thought it was amazing. And it's not all shown in that clip, but some of the other clips we've shown. The song is basically about the caste system that we live in, the tale of two countries, the tale of two cities that we live in, the exploitation of workers, the wages. And
also a lot of dog whistles. Let's be clear if you haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah. There was parts about it about welfare and yada yada. But on the economic part, all of these fucking idiots' response to the question about that is, why do people feel like this? Is austerity. Cut.
They don't get it.
It was just unbelievable. Their
Let's
response.
give more tax cuts to the rich, and then people will have more money to spend. Like, trickle down doesn't work, Christie. What are you even talking about? Like, what?
Right. Their response basically to an ode of the exploited proletariat and the drowning proletariat is, let's cut them some more, because austerity, as Steve Grumby says, is murder. And it's not the spending that is killing or hurting the worker guy and gal. It's the fact that we're basically living in a Gilded Age, and all the money is going to the top 1 to 5%.
And they're hoarding it.
Yep. But I found it interesting that Fox News began with that, because Fox isn't exactly a bastion of phony populism, but they don't.
It's phony populism, but Jordan, let me say this. It makes sense in the era that we are in post-Trump. This is what Trump is, right? This song perfectly encapsulate who's Trump is, right? I'm going to give you phony populism. I'm going to understand that you guys are saying all the rich men are taking all the money, and you're right. So let me drain the swamp. Get me to Washington, and I will address your issues. But let's be clear. The issues that you are having aren't because of rich guys like me. The rich guys can continue to get rich. That's fine. They're not the problem. The problem is that the immigrants are stealing your jobs. The problem is that the Jewish folks are controlling the brown and black folks, and they're taking your jobs for you, and they're anti-white. And that anti-white stuff is what's causing people to hate you, and they resent you for being that way. Like, let's be clear on what this song is about. It is very toxic. They didn't play all of the lyrics, but it does get into these sort of dog whistly sort of things. But it's the perfect song. Trump's not on the stage, but he might as well have been with this song. And he might as well have been given the answers that came from it. Nobody really addressed the issue. Nobody said, yes, we have severe income inequality. Maybe we should do something to raise the minimum wage. Maybe we should do something to strengthen unions. In fact, they did the opposite. A couple of them wanted to obliterate the teachers' unions. Because the teachers' unions and other unions are the problem here.
Right.
It's insane.
And by the way, I tweeted earlier, I mean, not that I am positive that these things would have been mentioned in a Democratic debate, even though we're not having a Democratic debate because the Democrats have canceled democracy this time. Well, every time. Not a question on the endless mass shootings. Not a question on the toxic water crisis. We have a water problem all over America. Not a question on the starvation minimum wage. This is the longest period that the minimum wage federally has not been increased since 2009 was the last increase. Not a question.
No addressing of the inflation. You know, they brought up inflation. Did anyone actually say that the inflation was being caused by corporate profiteering? Wage increases are not causing inflation. You know, some of them wanted to float that out there, but it's just not true. The data is really clear. This is corporate profiteering. This is greedy companies taking more money because they fucking can. And part of that is because of the monopolies that they have allowed to have been created. You know, the DOJ has not been perceiving antitrust as a problem for a long time now. I think that's starting to change a little bit, but let's be honest, this is all part and parcel to the same problem.
Absolutely. Not a question. Do any of you have a plan for the next pandemic, which probably either a research COVID or something far worse? Been on artificial intelligence, automation, and railroad deregulation. I mean, we passed East Palestine, as Lewis has just did his 4th reporting trip.
Yeah,
the town is a mess. People are sick. And what makes people think there's not going to be another derailment and detonation in your neck of the woods sometime soon?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there will be
plenty of other things I didn't ask about, but those were some things. I got to read some super chats because I have to go soon. I want to ask you one question before we go, Tina. Lionel hates the clock, $10. Howdy, Tina and Jordan. Howdy, howdy. Thank you. New member Emily signed up.
Woohoo! New member.
And the rest of you, we need to. Like I said at the beginning, I'm looking to go to Detroit to cover what looks like there's going to be 150,000 workers on strike in the auto industry, basically in 2.5 weeks. September 14th is the deadline for the contract for the United Auto Workers and the big 3, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Right now, I'm getting texts from workers, all the UAW locals in Illinois, Chicago, Detroit, Ohio. They're voting to go on strike at a 96% clip, 97%, 100% in some places. I think you're going to have a strike. I think it's going to be really, really big. Even if, let's say, between the three of those auto companies, that's 150,000 workers. I mean, let's say 1,000 workers physically go on strike. That's a fuck ton. So I would love to be there. I think it would be about a lot more than just this strike. And I think it could really have a domino effect from there. So please, not a member, consider signing up because this on-the-ground reporting is expensive. We recently sent Tina back to Atlanta to cover Cop City on the ground. That was her 2nd trip. Lewis was just in East Palestine. We have more interviews we're going to be releasing this weekend from Lewis's 4th reporting trip. The rest of the media has abandoned East Palestine. So check out those videos. The residents are really suffering. I'm going tomorrow to cover the nurses' strike, my 2nd time covering this nurses' strike in New Jersey. That'll probably be around 6 o'clock Eastern at night. We'll be live from the strike. That's 1,700 nurses on strike. So a lot of other channels are bloviating. We're out there on the ground. So please support us. StatusCoup.com/join. You could become a member for $5 a month. Emily, $5. It's my birthday. Woo! Happy birthday, Emily.
Happy birthday.
Hope to see Trump's mugshot today. That would be a fun birthday. Well, he is turning himself in 1 hour from now.
Yeah.
And you better believe MSNBC and the rest of them will have that mugshot as faster than you could blow out the candles. So happy birthday to you. Thank you very much for becoming a member as well as your super chat. Humorous Status Coup YouTube member.
Hey, Humorous.
The country of Florida is all GOP. They're trying to kill everyone that's not. It is a country, a fascist country. Yeah. Thank you as always. Lana, another $10. The dollar in your wallet and bank account are both federal debt and part of the federal deficit. Who is upset with the dollar they own? Who wants to reduce that? Raise your hand. Talking MMT. I like it. Thank you very much. Humorous, another $10. The whole country says they're religious. Total hypocrisy. Doesn't anybody understand that capitalism is literally the worship of mammon? Kind of goes against what the Bible says. You got it. Deha, $10, $9.99. Sad truth is even Trump supporters who do have the facts of the Georgia indictment don't care because it's all team sports. They just want to stick it to the liberals and see tears flow.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, that's true.
And
I agree.
Chris Garrett, OG, $5. We need more discussion like this to help me keep my sanity. Oops, I should have sent $2.79. Ask Graham. Okay. Thank you for the super chats. Again, please sign up as a member. Tina, real quick.
Yes.
I've been kind of surprised in a good way. The turning himself in DC, no violence. Turning himself in over January 6th, no violence. I've seen some threats online. I'm sure you live in these cesspools.
It's coming.
We'll see Georgia. It doesn't, right now it's
not coming tonight, but it is coming.
Meaning another.
No, there's a rage out there. There's definitely, this isn't going to remain peaceful, I don't think. I think no matter which way this goes, there's going to be an issue.
I think if there is a trial in any one of these cases, the classified documents, January 6th, or this Georgia indictment that starts before the election, I think that could really
there's a rage out there.
A powder keg could go off.
I agree. I guess what I'm getting out by saying there's a rage there. When I was out covering this Trump thing the other day, I witnessed just a deep rage. You feel the rage coming off some of these folks, and much more so than I have ever, even 2 years ago. So it's pent up, and it's gotta find an outlet somewhere. I'm driving up to Modesto tomorrow. There's the annual straight white pride bullshit thing happening.
Okay.
How do I even say that with a straight face?
You should like wear a shirt and say, I like, who's the ones that ask for kitty litter in the schools?
Oh yeah.
They say I'm a cat. Yeah.
Right. I'm a cat. So I'm going to go up and cover that tomorrow. Last year I was able to get in there and interview some Proud Boys and whatnot. They had a group prayer circle, like an actual group prayer circle. There was a little bit of violence, not as much as the year before, because there was a large police presence. Modesto's not used to that sort of thing. So I'm certain there will be a large police presence tomorrow as well, or Saturday as well. But I also think it could be bad. I mean, we've got a growing neo-Nazi. And when I say neo-Nazi, people should realize this by now. I actually mean, Sig Heiling, swastika-wearing Nazis. I'm not talking about white nationalists or whatnot. We have a growing neo-Nazi group up there. And I have no doubt that they will show up.
Yeah, unfortunate. Thanks, Emily. $2. White powder pride parade. If there's crazies in the crowd, you could always depend on Tina to be there. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Colin, for putting together all the clips. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Take care.